Hi, haven't recorded in a while. It's David, and this time I'm playing Ninjas, which is a deck that I love to play. This is one of my favorite Legacy decks, and Ninjas has gotten some help with the new Duskmourn set in the form of Kaito Bane of Nightmares. So, Kaito is a ninja when it's your turn. It can be ninjutsu'd in, but it's a planeswalker as well, and you can activate its ability as a planeswalker, even when it's your turn. It's a 3/4 ninja with hexproof. Like, this card does a lot. It doesn't really have an ultimate that wins the game, but it just kind of slowly accumulates value. The +1, makes your ninjas a little bit bigger, get a changeling outcast out of range of bowmasters or something like that. But a couple activations, and suddenly your ninjas are hitting for like 3 or 4. Kaito's hitting for 5. This is pretty legit damage. The Surveil 2 and draw a card if the opponent's lost life. That's excellent. And the tapping a creature, put 2 stun counters on it can also kind of double as a removal spell. There's a lot of tricks you can do with this guy. You can ninjutsu, activate the ability, the following turn, activate the ability, ninjutsu him out, ninjutsu him back in. So there's lots of tricks you can do with Kaito. Um, One of the other things is just from a matchup standpoint, Ninjas has historically struggled with Planeswalkers because with Yuriko or with Ingenious Infiltrator, if you're attacking Planeswalkers, you're not drawing extra cards. And Ninjas historically has been a deck that if it fell behind, if it's not drawing cards, uh, the deck just kind of falls behind and loses. Kaito kind of changes the calculus here. So Kaito actually matches up pretty well against a card like Teferi or a card like Narset. Um, you know, Either of those, typically, if Teferi's tick down or Narset's tick down, Kaito can kill him in one shot. Neither of those cards draw anything, or Teferi can't bounce Kaito, and neither of them can really deal with Kaito very effectively because Kaito kind of has hexproof when it's your turn, which means like Swords to Plowshares or something like that doesn't do anything. It literally requires Kaito being blocked, which is challenging for the same decks that run Planeswalkers. They usually don't have creatures to block Kaito. So Kaito actually kind of has changed ninjas a little bit, I would say. Like, it has a much stronger mid-range game plan. Combined with the cards it got from MH3 in Tameo and Psychic Frog, like the sort of the gameplay has changed around ninjas. Tameo combined with Kaito lets the deck play a lot more of a mid-range game plan, and Psychic Frog kind of is yet another ninja in some ways. Like, it kind of begs the question, why do you go through the whole rigmarole of ninjutsuing in Eureka or Ingenious Infiltrator when you can just put in a Psychic Frog and attack with it? And that is a fair question, and maybe Psychic Frog will be out of the format in a couple months. We'll have to see. But it's still a very good card to be running right now. You know, uh, it's kind of a ninja that doesn't require any setup, but it's a turn slower. It's still very good. It also is kind of, ninjas sometimes ran cards like Murktide Regent as another finisher. Between Psychic Frog and Kaito and even Tameo, like, the deck now doesn't lack finishers. So the deck has kind of changed quite a bit with the introduction of MH3, and then Duskmourn has changed it even more. In terms of this build's a little different. Notice I'm running 0 ponders, and in its place, I'm choosing to just run more threats. I do have a little bit of extra lands. Ninjas historically has been kind of a 17, 18 land deck. I'm running 19 plus a modal double face land. And then I'm running 2 Nile Spellbombs in the main deck. This is just sort of a nod to the best deck in the format. And then these cantrip. Other than that, the deck's pretty standard. I am running 3 Fatal Pushes instead of Ninjas historically has run 2. That's kind of a nod to Psychic Frog, again, warping the deck building for the best deck in the format. I think I've cut down a little bit on ninjas because Kaito kind of is another ninja that can be enabled. So really, I'm running 7 plus the 4 Psychic Frogs. So I feel like that's enough. And then the sideboard is kind of a who's who of the format. You have Consign for the Eldrazi decks. It has some applications in a couple other decks. I have a bunch of graveyard stuff. Actually, I'm running a couple cards that are kind of anti-storm. When Ninjas historically has run Retrofitter Foundry, which I'm not running, Null Rod was kind of an odd card to run because it shut down part of your deck. I'm not running Retrofitter Foundry. I'm running Null Rod, and I think it's probably safe that the decks that I'm running Null Rod in, I probably don't need Nile Spellbomb, or they aren't very good. Other than that, a little bit more removal, a little bit more graveyard hate, a red blast and a blue blast, or sorry, a hydro blast and a blue blast for the red decks, because there's a lot of red decks, and Harbinger of the Seas for decks with weak mana bases, including Eldrazi. So that's kind of Ninjas. I still think Ninjas is kind of figuring out the numbers of all of these cards. You know, do you run 3 Eurekos, 3 Ingenious Infiltrators, 2 Kaitos? Do you go up to 3 Kaitos? Do you run Orcish Bowmasters, or do you run Baleful Strix? I think these are open questions. I don't think I have all the answers yet. I think Ninjas is still figuring out like what is the exact number to run. I am running 8 Ninja Enablers, which is about what Ninjas has historically run. You'll see it's a little bit different. I'm only running 2 Ornithopters because I don't really have any Retrofitter Foundries to turn those into anything. You can always pitch an Ornithopter to a Psychic Frog though. I'm running 2 Changeling Outcasts. Again, 2 of my ninjas don't trigger off of other ninjas, so the value of Changing Outcast kind of goes down. And I'm going kind of heavier on Tamios. I'm running 4 of these. This card is perfect for ninjas. You know, you get the attack trigger on Tamio, and then you can ninjutsu her out. There's some other tricks you can pull, like brainstorming to flip Tamio after blocks, and then if the opponent tries to plow Tamio or something, you ninjutsu. There's some tricks that you can pull. I might show those off if the opportunity arises. But yeah, looking forward to playing this. All right, on the play, we'll see how this goes. This hand is okay. It doesn't have a ninja enabler, but it kind of has. It can cast an Undercity Sewer, or it can kind of try to find something with Undercity Sewers. If I get Wastelanded, it's probably okay. I'm going to keep this, and we'll see how it goes. This is a little bit of a slower hand, but again, ninjas kind of can play a little bit of a slower game. So I'm going to open with the Undercity Sewers, try to put the opponent on the defensive, and I don't know if I need this, but I'm gonna put it into the graveyard, and we'll see. We'll see. We'll hope that I don't need that. I think I'm looking for a ninja enabler. Okay. I'm gonna just play the polluted delta and pass the turn here. Kind of have a little bit too much land, but this lets me very easily fetch, play a fatal push, fetch a basic. Okay, I don't like. This is looking more and more like the best deck in the format. I'm not going to fetch at the end of turn. All right, there's a Psychic Frog. I like that. So I think I'm just going to play out the frog, and we'll see what my opponent's got in store for me. They'll probably just fatal push it, and that's an okay outcome, I think. That's fine. Now, interestingly, if my opponent reanimates here, I can Brazen Borrow it back to my hand. Brainstorm's fine. So we'll see, is my opponent on kind of the Reanimator version, in which case I'm going to regret losing that Nile Spellbomb, or is my opponent on the Tempo version? It's kind of looking more and more like the Reanimation version. That's a pretty good card, but I don't think I can just jam the Ingenious Infiltrator here into a Daze and into whatever else. The Ingenious Infiltrator may be a pitch card here. Let's see, this is probably an Undercity Sewers. Yeah. They have their own Nile Spellbomb. No Bowmaster to punish that. Okay. Sure. Ponder's good. Opponent's really setting up. They've got lots of cantrips. And this is where they kind of have an advantage, because remember, I'm not running Ponder. I'm wondering if I should just cast the Brazen Borrower here. I'm really thinking about it. I think I might play it. See if my opponent's got anything. They don't. So I'm going to just cast Brazen Borrower here. And obviously if my opponent's got Bowmasters, that is unfortunate. But I feel like a lot of these decks are not running Bowmaster in the main deck. That's why I feel a little bit better about playing Brazen Borrower right now. All right, let's see if we can get going here. So this is kind of interesting. I could play out the island. I don't think I want to do that. Yeah, I think I'll still want to hold it for Brainstorm, because if I play it out, I can Force of Will. Let's see if my opponent's got anything here. Okay. This could just be a Fatal Push, and that would be fine. That's fine. Okay. So here, if I play the Ingenious Infiltrator, I'm shields down a little bit. But if I force here, I'm a little bit shields down as well. Like if I force, I'm kind of out of gas. So I think I'm going to play Ingenious Infiltrator and hope they have something like Psychic Frog, which doesn't really match up super well. So I'll just play the Ingenious Infiltrator out and hope they have like a creature. And not a creature that I cannot deal with Fatal Push. Which I think this deck, usually the 6 drops, they run the Troll and they have the Metamorphosis Fanatic. Okay, well, opponent knows what's up now. So Thoughtseize kind of tells me they might be on the Reanimator version, in which case this might just be concession time if they just go Entomb into Atraxa or something. Oh, Murktide Regent. That's almost quaint. That's still bad for me, but it's okay. I mean, it's not good, but I don't die immediately like with Atraxa. So I'm just going to hold back, and we'll see what my opponent. I mean, they're going to start attacking, but if they attack, then I get to draw extra cards, and there are a few outs in the deck. There's Murderous Cut, there's Shieldred's Edict, and there's Sink into Stupor. So no blocks. I have 2 more turns. All right. Tamiyo is a thing. See if my opponent's got like a Shieldred's Edict here. They have -5, -5. Yep. Okay. I'm going to play Tamiyo. And Tamiyo can block next turn. So I can block with Tamiyo, or I can take 7 and go to 5. I'll probably take 7 and go to 5 and take 1 more card. So the Nile Spellbombs kind of do serve a purpose here. They can stop the Murktide, but this is looking more and more like the tempo version. Because I don't think the Reanimator version is running Murktide. Murktide's a terrible reanimation target. All right, and we're going to Fatal Push the Psychic Frog at the EOT. All right. Okay, they have pitched Daze for whatever reason. Okay. I mean, not sure that matters, but that's fine. Opponent has a card, or has something they can do here. Hopefully it's not Force Blue card. So I either chump with Tamiyo, or I can draw the extra card now. Like I can draw the extra card off of a clue. Because I only get 1 more card. You know, if I block with Tamiyo, I only get 1 more card. So I'm going to actually do it now. Yeah, I'm going to declare the attack. We'll see what happens. So here, I'm going to actually trigger the clue because if I draw Kaito, that's a thing. Okay, I didn't draw Kaito, but I drew Sink into Stupor, which does get me out of the mess. Well, if my opponent doesn't have Force Blue card. So we'll see if this is going to resolve. Okay, well, I get another turn. So opponent can Murktide again, but Murktide will only be a 3/3 this time, which is less scary, although it stops me from attacking with Tamiyo. Opponent has their own Kaito Bane of Shadows. Yeah, I mean, nothing I can do to this. I can daze it, but they have the mana to pay. It's kind of it's cool to see my opponent playing this. I mean, maybe they're playing the same deck. Maybe they're also playing ninjas. Although, the fact that they're running, okay, they've stunned Tamiyo, which I guess is a thing. Now this does look more tempo-y than ninjas. I think it's just looking like tempo with a Kaito. And Kaito's pretty good here. I mean, Kaito's almost lethal. I'm gonna play the Ornithopter just in case, and just pass the turn. Again, nothing I can really do here. My opponent can hit me for up to 4 by ticking up Kaito, although I can block it with Ornithopter, which I don't think I will do. Yeah, I don't like that. Actually, maybe I will block with Ornithopter, because if I draw like a ninja, I can't attack with it into Kaito. So I'm just going to block, save the damage. And then my opponent could Murktide here. They can't use Kaito to draw a card. They can use it. I guess they've already used it to tick up. Facing a Kaito, this would be a good spot for Retrofitter Foundry. Okay, there's a 3/3 Murktide. Oh, it's a 4/4. All right. 2 Wastelands. Okay, kind of nothing I'm doing is matching up super well here, and I am dead. So, yeah, I am dead. We will go to the next game. Notably, you can't Fatal Push Kaito, so because Kaito has Hexproof during my turn. So, yeah, nothing I can do there. Okay, so this is kind of a tempo-y deck. Because of the Kaito, I think I want Childred's Edict. I think Long Goodbye is reasonable if my opponent's playing Psychic Frog. I didn't actually see any reanimation stuff, so I'm going to probably leave some of this out. And I don't, they're pure blue-black, so I don't think I want any of that. So I think these are the 2 cards that I want. And since I didn't see things that like immediately win the game, I'm leaning on taking out Force of Will. As opposed to that. I think the Nile Spellbomb, kind of being a cantrip and keeping my opponent off Murktide Regent, is kind of a real thing, and it's kind of a hedge in case they do have something like a Metamorphosis Fanatic, which doesn't look likely given they had Murktide, but it's possible. But I don't think Force of Will is the most valuable card here. I like Daze on the play. On the draw, I might swap a Daze for a Force. So we're going to go with this. All right. Okay. No blue mana. This hand would be good with blue mana. Like one of these for a blue. This would be great. But ugh, yuck. I don't think I can keep this either. All right, this I will keep. Can't really keep Force on 5. And I think we'll swap the Murderous Cut for I think Murderous Cut's going to be hard to cast immediately, and the Brazen will be easier. So I'm going to go like this. Just going to play the Polluted and pass. I'll probably surveil at the end of turn. Okay, opponents fetch basics. They have Tamiyo. Well, I'm going to get a surveil land. I can't play around Wasteland anyway because I have this, and I'm going to junk the Nile Spellbomb again. Kind of looking for like another land would be okay. A Fatal Push would not be bad. I'm going to play this out and just... Actually, do I want to play the Frog into Daze? I think playing the Frog into Daze is okay. It'll set my opponent back if this happens. Okay, Frog resolves. I have no intention of jumping Tamiyo to block. Or jumping the Frog to block Tamiyo. I can also bounce the Tamiyo if I need to, if the Tamiyo flips. Okay, there's Swamp. There's Thoughtseize. Okay. Okay, opponent's taking Bowmasters. They're essentially conceding a card. Oh, they're not conceding a card, so they're gonna hold back here. Well, I think I'm gonna open with Shieldred's Edict here and make my opponent sacrifice a non-token creature. All right, and then I'll get the card in with Frog. And we'll see what I draw. So my opponent knows about the Brazen Borrower. Brainstorm's good, but I don't think I need to fire it off quite yet. I think I can hold back. I do have to be careful because my opponent could have Bowmasters. Brainstorm's fine. So I don't just want to fire a Brainstorm directly into Bowmasters. Nethergoyf is fine. Not too worried about that. Opponent's a little short on lands. I'm going to open with the Brainstorm, and we'll see what happens here. Fatal Push isn't bad. Eureka's not bad. I mean, pretty much none of this is bad. I don't think I need the Sink into Stupor right now. And then maybe I'll put the Eureka on top. I don't think I want a ninjutsu in Eureka. I think Frog's probably better than Eureka right now. But maybe I can do something where I mean, the other option is I could Brazen Borrower the Nethergoyf and just kind of like attempt to tempo my opponent. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. Maybe I'll put, so I'm going to draw one of these cards. So maybe I'll put Sink into Stupor on the top of my deck. And then I'll draw the Eureka. Play the fetch land. Petty Theft the Nethergoyf. Because this way, assuming this resolves, we'll see if it does. This kind of tempos my opponent and forces them to, okay, they're forcing it straight up. Okay. That's fine. I think I still want to draw that card, and I'm not too worried about taking 4. So I'm going to exile 3, and we'll go from there. I'm going to exile the Bowmaster, the Nile Spellbomb, and the Polluted Delta. And leave the spells in there because I can recur them potentially with Tamiyo. I don't think I need to rush into Fatal Pushing the Nethergoyf. So I've drawn Eureka, and I have the Sink into Stupor on the top of my deck. So if my opponent like jams a Murktide region or something, that's fine. Okay, opponent is got a Nile Spellbomb. They're using that to draw a card, grow the Nethergoyf by 1. Again, not super concerned about that. Gonna wasteland me potentially. Not super worried about that either. Okay. Another spell bomb. That's fine. So notably, they can like use they can recur the Goyf if I take care of it here. But I think still Fatal Pushing the Goyf will be good here, and I think I do want the Sink into Stupor, so I'm just going to draw it. I'm just going to attack. And no, I'm not going to play Yuriko here, I don't think. That's a good draw. Cool, so I'm just going to pass the turn, and I'll probably Fatal Push the Nether Goyf when they attack. And if they use that to recur the Nether Goyf, like, I think that's probably okay too. Okay. Exiling my non-existing graveyard. Now they can't, I guess, okay, yeah, they could recur the Nether Goyf now. All right. Psychic Frog, sure. All right, so here I want to fetch to play around Wasteland Days, and we'll get Island. And I'm going to play the Sheoldred's Edict. And they can sacrifice a non-token. All right, I'm just going to ride this Psychic Frog to victory, I think, as much as that is possible. Sure, that's fine. We'll just play another one. Do I want to play that or do I want to play Yuriko? I think I'm going to play the Frog because I expect my opponent to play the Nether Goyf next turn. And as a result, I want to have something that can gain flying. So my opponent can recur the Nether Goyf, but the Nether Goyf will be smaller. Still probably pretty good size though. The Sink into Stupor isn't super good against Nether Goyf. So it's still a 5/6. I mean, that thing is still pretty good. Tamiyo's decent here. So I'm going to exile 3 cards. We'll get the Frog, the Polluted Delta, and Fatal Push, I think. Yeah, we'll do that. Keeping the Sheoldred's Edict. And I'm just going to swing in. And if I draw actually a cantrip, I wouldn't mind that. All right. Okay, I don't hate that. So I can play Tamiyo and then Brainstorm, and then kind of force my opponent to attack the Tamiyo. We'll Brainstorm here. Cool. Not super interested in the Swamp. I think I'll just put the Yuriko. No. Yeah, let's put... So I think I'm going to cast the Bowmaster here. And block with the token. So I think I want to keep Sink into Stupor on top of my deck. Maybe Yuriko underneath. That seems okay. Will I have lethal? Because I kind of want to get lethal next turn. That probably isn't quite lethal, but I guess with the Sheoldred's Edict, it's probably safer. But I want Sink into Stupor in case my opponent draws something like Murktide Regent. Let's do that. Tick up the Tamiyo. Play the Swamp. And pass the turn. And then I can flash in the Bowmaster to block if my opponent attacks Tamiyo. Okay, opponent's going to 6. There's the Surveil. Getting a Wasteland. Wasteland doesn't do a lot here. See what my opponent does. They're probably attacking Tamiyo. Sure are. I'll cast the Bowmaster. I'll cast it like this. I'm just going to ping the opponent and then chump. Opponent's going to force it? Sure, that's fine. Yeah, Tamiyo can die. It's fine. So I don't have lethal. I probably didn't play that the best, to be 100% honest. But I think it's okay. So this will draw the Eureka, the Tiger's Shadow. Which I think I'm just gonna play. So I can play that and Frog even. That seems pretty good. Because I'm really pretty unconcerned about the Nethergoyf. All right. This kind of just presents, I mean, Eureka could be a lethal threat. The Psychic Frogs can fly. I can bounce the Nethergoyf with Sink into Stupor. Opponent has a second Goyf. Not super worried about that. Okay, so they're just chilling. So I can't bounce it and then attack. But there are some tricks I can play here. So this is kind of a fun trick here. So I could, let's see here. I could just play Kaito and tap it, or I could ninjutsu Kaito, tap it, get a Eureka trigger. That seems like that'll probably win the game. So let's do that. So this gets a Eureka trigger, which may or may not win the game. Okay, didn't. That's okay. We're going to tap one of the Goyfs and play a Psychic Frog. And I should have lethal next turn. All right. This should be plenty. Okay, opponent scoops it up. Now Spellbomb is plenty to get the job done there. Probably could have gone all in and tried to get lethal with Psychic Frog a little earlier, but I think this was okay. So now knowing that my opponent has a bunch of Nethergoyfs, I could consider something like Ghost Vacuum. I don't hate that. Nile Spellbomb is also pretty good, but Ghost Vacuum kind of wins the game if it goes long. I probably don't want this Daze. I wonder if you just want the Ghost Vacuum over Force and just keep the two forces in the one Daze. That's probably okay. Yeah, we'll go with this. Hand's a little questionable. Has a Brainstorm, has a Fatal Push. I think I'm inclined to keep it, and I really need to either draw land on my first couple turns here. I have a Surveil. Okay, well, might not have that Brainstorm. We'll see. Opponent might not take the Brainstorm. They took the Brainstorm. All right. But I mean, if I draw one land, I feel like I'm fine. So I feel fine showing my opponent the Undercity Sewers. And Brainstorm is the kind of card that helps fix my hand, so I will keep it. My opponent, they could have a wasteland here. They're probably looking for one. Okay, they didn't find one. So I can jam a frog here, which is probably okay. I don't hate that. And the question is, do I want to get island or swamp? I think I want island. The other possibility is just playing a brainstorm, which might be safer. I think I'll do that. I think that's better than jamming Psychic Frog into Daze. Okay, didn't get any lands. That's okay. But I'm going to put back a Eureka and probably one Ingenious Infiltrator. And then the question is, do I want to play Nile Spellbomb or do I want to play Tamiyo? I could play Tamiyo into Daze, which I think is probably fine. I feel much less bad about playing Tamiyo into Daze than something else. Yeah, so let's play Tamiyo and see if my opponent did nothing. So Tamiyo's in. Still worried about a wasteland, but in okay shape. No wasteland. Okay, opponent's got a frog. Frog's fine. I would love to draw like a swamp here. Not quite what I'm looking for. So I think you open with just Fatal Push on Frog, and then we'll see if my opponent has anything after that. So let's just Fatal Push the Frog. Okay. Get in. Tamio's pretty good here, but definitely worried a little bit about my land situation. Really need like a swamp. That's what I want. A basic swamp off the top or something that can get a basic swamp would be very good. Okay. Don't know what my opponent has. They've got 5 cards in hand, and I feel like they've been kind of slow playing. Okay. Well, they have Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is good. Took Children's Edict. No action here. All right. Well, I am going to throw the Eureka. I'll throw one Eureka. I mean, into Children's Edict, I guess. I mean, I think that's okay. A long goodbye, maybe? Dark Betrayal. Ah, that makes sense. Okay. Sure. Okay. Dark Betrayal. This is a card we're starting to see in sideboards, which really kind of shows you like opponents pondering. Like that shows how dominant black as a color is right now in the format with Psychic Frog and everything. There's the Wasteland. Didn't want to see that. That's trouble. And if opponent then goes Frog, like I'm kind of in big trouble. The Nile Spellbomb I'm not too worried about. I don't use the graveyard a lot. Really need like a fetch land here. All right. You got it, opponent. Actually, I shouldn't yield through. Okay. Opponent's just cracking the spell bomb, targeting me, drawing an extra card. Okay. Still really need a swamp. Okay. Fatal Push. Really need that swamp because I don't really want to use the Nile Spellbomb without getting the value out of it. But I am worried about something like I'm worried about a Murktide. Like an 8/8 Murktide that I just don't have the answer for. Is this another one? That's a full price Dismember. Okay. Opponent's just fully stocked on removal. But nothing else. Really need that swamp. Ornithopter's a thing. Lets me do something if I draw that swamp. This is not the best showing for this deck. But I am running more lands than usual Ninjas runs. So hey, there we go. Okay, so there's questions here. I can slow play. I think the first things first, you fetch out the basic swamp. Hope the opponent doesn't have opposition agent or stifle. Okay, so now the question becomes, do you put in Ingenious Infiltrator, do you put in Eureka, or do you play it slow and use the Nile Spellbomb? And right now, I'm leaning toward putting in the Ingenious Infiltrator. We'll see if my opponent, they might have something here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. So I can play Psychic Frog into Daze. I don't think I want to do that. I think I'm going to go to my opponent's upkeep and crack the Nile Spellbomb. Yep. Okay. An 0-1 Nethergoyf. You got it. Which is better than nothing, I suppose. Card can grow. So here's a question. Do I play out the Frog or do I play out the Bowmaster? I think I'm just going to play out the Frog, and we'll see what my opponent gets going after that. Really not concerned about the Nethergoyf for now. Okay, opponent forces the Frog. That's fine. You have an 0-1 Nethergoyf. I feel like I have a ton of options here, and my opponent is like running on fumes. So I actually feel pretty good in this position. All right. Island, love it. Let's go. So I have kind of no intention of, like, I'll probably flash in the Bowmaster at the end of turn. I'm not blocking, and I'm not going to long goodbye the Nethergoyf right now. Actually, I probably should, just in case my opponent has, Kaito. Kaito's a worry. I'm going to let the opponent declare the attack. I'm going to Bowmaster now, because I don't want to, because the long goodbye is immune to Daze. So I'm going to play the Bowmaster now. See if my opponent does anything. No action from the opponent. I'm just going to ping them. And then I'm going to cast Long Goodbye on it. Since my opponent showed me Kaito, I'm kind of worried. I don't want that. I don't want to get hit by that. That's a great draw. All right. So here, I think I'm going to put in the Ingenious Infiltrator. And the question is, which one do I bring back? I think I'm going to bring back the Orc Army, because I think the Orcish Bowmaster is probably holding the opponent back from casting any cantrips. So I think leaving the Bowmaster in play is pretty good. And if my opponent has a removal spell here, like they're about to get beaten by Eureka. Okay, opponent, sorry. Yeah, so that's probably game here. Opponent just lost a ton of value. Okay. Play the Polluted Delta, pass the turn. So that was a double ninjutsu, where you ninjutsu one creature, opponent targets it with removal, and then you ninjutsu again. Yeah, okay. Opponent scoops it up. The double ninjutsu got him. On the draw this time. Another one-lander. Don't love that. If I'm on the draw, I technically have a redraw off of the Nile Spellbomb. Can't Surveil with the Prismatic Vista. I only get the redraw if I fetch black too, which does let me Fatal Push. Definitely a choice on this hand. I think I'm going to mulligan it. I don't really have a Ninja Enabler either. I'm going to mulligan and hope for a two-lander. Sounds pretty terrible. I think I'm going to go to 5. Just that hand has no game plan. Okay, this is a hand. It can do things. I'm going to put these 2 back, and we'll see how it goes. This is not great. Kind of had some tricky mulligans already. Ponder is a card aimed at smoothing those mulligans, so that's true. Alright. I think I'm just going to play the island and pass. Bloodstained Mire is frequently a combo card, but doesn't have to be. And now that I have 3 lands, this Sink into Stupor is looking more and more like a spell. Undercity Sewers. Still, this could be a combo. It's interesting. Okay. Don't hate the brainstorm, but I think I'm just going to jam the frog. It could be combo. Yeah, let's just go with the frog. I'm going to hold off on thinking that until my opponent shows me a little more. The other option there was brainstorming into a potential Bowmasters, which I also kind of didn't want to do. Okay, not looking like combo anymore, so this is looking fair. Combo decks generally don't run removal. Or not much. Not Fatal Push. Wasteland. That's currently dead. Okay, I feel a little better about brainstorming now into that because of the Fatal Push. So I think I can safely brainstorm here. If my opponent jams a Bowmaster, that's fine, and then I will Fatal Push the Bowmaster. If my opponent has Force, it's not even the end of the world. Okay. Like, I have Sink into Stupor for the token. Okay, not super. I don't think I need Force of Will. Don't have an enabler for the Ninja for a little bit. So I don't think I need the Force of Will, and I don't think I need the Nile Spellbomb. The question is, do I jam this Fatal Push directly into Daze? This is fine. I mean, I don't like it, obviously. What did my opponent pitch? They pitched Brainstorm. Okay, I think I am going to play this into Daze. If the opponent pitched... if my opponent pitched Brainstorm instead of Daze, like, you got me. Wow. Opponent really did get me. Okay. They got me pretty good. Now I can't even cast the Sink into Stupor. Definitely in trouble. Taking 5 here. Yep. Alright. Well. I mean, I think you just do it now. Not, like, just save myself the life. Sink into Stupor the token. That kind of stems the bleeding. My opponent has the Bowmaster, but the Bowmaster will be held back by the Ingenious Infiltrator. Which I can jam into Daze, but... and I don't love that. Okay. So opponent's done a lot of damage to me. Psychic Frog would be not good. Murktide. Alright, a couple Murktide decks. Definitely in trouble because now there's only like Murderous Cut does anything against that. Well, I'm going to jam this, at least hold off the Bowmaster. The opponent draw another Daze. They didn't. Okay. So this is looking like another kind of fair deck. Okay, opponent's thought seized away my force, which is useless. Can't block the Murktide. Pretty much need to top deck Murderous Cut off the top. And I'm dead. So there's nothing I can even do here. Even if I hit them with the Ingenious Infiltrator, they get a ping. Even if I top deck Murderous Cut, I lose the game. So I'm dead here. All right. So opponent really got me with that, I guess, like the whole situation with the Fatal Push and the Force of Will. So good on him. Okay, so opponent is running probably Nethergoyf again. So I think the Ghost Vacuum is probably good. And I think the removal is probably good. And the rest of this is probably not needed. I've only seen the two colors, which kind of makes me not super excited about Harbinger. And I think, again, like cutting 2 forces or maybe even 3 forces is probably right. The fact that my opponent's running Bowmasters makes me really like my own Bowmasters. I think just cutting forces is good. And we'll go with this. Again, the forces are a lot of times for unfair matchups. I feel like in the fair matchups you don't need them as much. I mean, obviously they're still good sometimes, but not as necessary. There is a thought of taking out Changeling Outcast, but there's a couple things you can do. You can save it with a Bowmasters, or you can pump it with a Kaito. So I don't feel as needed to take it out. I have the Daze if I really need it. If I have Daze also to protect it still. Like Daze, protects me from a Psychic Frog, protects me from a Bowmaster, that kind of stuff. So I think I'm okay to keep in the 2 Changeling Outcasts. So facing another blue-black tempo list. I feel like blue-black tempo has put up some good showings in recent challenges. So yeah, maybe I'd be in a little bit better shape there if I didn't mold a 5. So hopefully I can get through this one without mulliganing too bad. All right. This hand looks great, so I will keep this. Opponent's back. Let's see if they Fatal Push right here. No. So I'm probably going to flip the Tameo here, that's always a good situation to be in. Still something like Sheoldred's Edict or Long Goodbye, which are cards they could take out the Tameo after flipping, but still a good place to be in, I feel. Okay. I think I'm going to play the Polluted Delta and get the attack in. All right, and let's brainstorm and see what my opponent's got here. Nothing. So I'm flipping the Tameo, probably just putting back 2 lands. The Polluted Delta can get me I guess because I have more brainstorms, probably want to keep another fetch land. So I'll put back these 2, flip the Tameo with the intention of fetching probably maybe a Surveil land, maybe something else at the end step. A frog? It's a frog. That's fine. I'm going to fetch a Surveil land because I need to fill my graveyard in case I need to do both of these or something. I will top that. That seems great. Okay, we're going to cast Children's Edict, non-token, black, blue. See what my opponent does to that. They just let it go. I will just take up the Tamiyo. All right, and I am 2 turns away from threatening something really good with Tamiyo, so we'll see how that goes. All right, opponent's going to surveil. Put a Tamiyo into the yard. Seems reasonable. Is this a Murktide? Sure is. Opponent knows I have Shieldred's Edict, though. Like they know that I have Shieldred's Edict in the graveyard. So we'll kind of see what happens. This is me lagging here. Okay. Love a land here. No answers to that. 4/4 Murktide can't even kill the Tamiyo. Opponent's probably expecting me to tick down or something. Could brainstorm first. I don't hate that. Kind of want to hit a land drop. So maybe let's brainstorm first. I like this. Okay. So I think I want to put back one of these lands and maybe the brainstorm, to be honest. And then I can just cast the Shieldred's Edict again. And let's do that. All right, I'll fetch out the swamp and then cast Shieldred's Edict. I want to save the Murderous Cut just a little bit longer if I can. Opponent might be trying to set me up for a something with Tamiyo. So we'll fetch Swamp here, and I'm just going to cast another Shieldred's Edict. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token. Okay. What do you got, opponent? Nothing. Okay, well, we'll just keep ticking up Tamiyo. And now I'm threatening the ultimate. So the opponent could have something like Long Goodbye or Shieldred's Edict here. Those would be bad for me. There's Wasteland, which hurts, but isn't terrible. Brainstorm's okay. I'm a little worried about Wasteland, and then they have Bowmasters plus Force plus Daze or something. Like I have 2 ways to deal with them doing a Bowmasters if I activate the Tamiyo. But with Wasteland, Daze would be turned on for them if I don't draw a land. Kind of see how this goes. Opponent, I guess if I draw Daze though, I would turn on my own Daze. Let's see what my opponent does. They know I have the Tamiyo. They've brainstormed. They've already played the Wasteland, which is kind of an odd choice. They have 5 cards. Okay, so they are destroying the Undercity Sewers. So I have kind of a choice. Like they can Bowmaster and then try to force or something. So if they Bowmaster, I Bowmaster. They can try to force my Bowmaster. Then I Murderous Cut their Bowmaster or something. Definitely risky to tick up the Tamiyo here. We'll see what happens. Something like Daze or Force would be great. So the polluted delta at least lets me play around days. I think I go for it here, and we kind of just see what my opponent, like I have two pieces of interaction. They have to have like Bowmaster plus force. So that would be their exact, that would be all of their cards. So I think I'm just going to go for it. Let's go for it. And, you know, if they have that, I lose the game. They could have like triple days plus Bowmaster. I mean, we'll see what happens. Stifle? Any of those work. But if they don't, they're kind of in trouble. Drawing half the deck usually wins the game. So I assume they have Bowmaster here. Not sure what they're waiting for. Opponent's taking their time. Okay, there's the Bowmaster. Bowmaster's going to resolve, probably take out the Tamiyo. That's fine. And then I'll cast my own Bowmaster. Opponent might have force. That's what I'm expecting here. Days, okay. Could have triple days. Days. Okay. Okay, so opponent has two cards in hand. Okay, they just scoop it up. I was going to say, so I can pay for both dazes, or I can just let the daze go away and then cast Murderous Cut. Opponent doesn't seem to care. So, awesome. Tamiyo got that one done. Okay, on the draw, I think you probably want another force over the daze. Opponent was still running their dazes. The rest of this all seems fine. Yeah, we'll go with this. I haven't seen any Nether Goyfs, so maybe the Ghost Vacuum's questionable, but it's still kind of like a turn 1 Ghost Vacuum, I feel, is still extremely strong against any deck that has Murktide. See if I can avoid a terrible mulligan situation. I have one modal double face land. Can cast a Brainstorm. My opponent could be running Thoughtseizes and just take me off of it. I think this is a mulligan. I hate this. I'm going to keep it. Okay, what do I send back? Kaito is a bit ambitious, although if I draw a land in the first 2 turns, it's not super crazy. I think I'll send back the Brazen Bee. Okay. I don't love this hand, but yeah, I don't love it. This is Tamiyo. It's Tamiyo. I think I will Fatal Push this into days. Fatal Push. Opponent's got days. That's fine. I will cast another Ornithopter, or cast an Ornithopter. Don't want to see a Wasteland. That's probably the card I most not want to see. Interesting. Oh, I see. Opponent didn't want to open themselves up here to... this is terrible for me. This is terrible. Okay. Yeah. So I can Fatal Push the Tamiyo, playing into days. And keeps me with a force up for like a frog. Eesh. I don't love it. We're doing it. Let's see if my opponent dazes this. If they daze this, I would actually consider forcing. They're forcing. Okay. All right, I'm going to just let it go because that makes me feel more confident about forcing a frog if they cast a frog. Okay, opponent has surveilled. Brainstorm into the bin. Curious card to bin. They have a land in hand. There's Bowmasters. Do I even care about Bowmasters? I'm not sure I do. I don't think this is my fight. Not super worried about Bowmasters. I hate this. I hate it. We'll cast the Changeling Outcast. I am kind of far from doing anything meaningful here. And if my opponent just gets a Wasteland, I'm super in trouble. I think Kaito's the pitch card. Do I want to force the Brainstorm? Brainstorm flips Tameo. It also helps them find Wasteland. I think I'm just going to force it. This is a weird choice, but I think that's where we are. Okay, opponent's got that. Just going to block the Ornithopter. Alright, opponent dealt 1 damage to me. Hate it. Notably, my Bowmaster will grow my Changeling Outcast if something happens there. Does opponent have another fetch? Or another Surveil? They do not. Sheoldred's Edict. Sacrifice a non-token. Huh. Huh. I don't think this is my fight. I think I'll sacrifice the Changeling Outcast and leave up the Ornithopter. This has been holding back their Tameo, which I feel has been, like, that's pretty good value for me. And I can block the Orcish Bowmasters. Like, opponent's hellbent right now. So even if they draw something like a Murktide, you just force it. I feel like I'm not far off from stabilizing here. Sure. Opponent has 2 cards. One's a land. Okay. I mean, if you play it. I feel though like I'm not far from stabilizing here. I don't love the value they're getting with Tameo, but so it goes. The Ghost Vacuum shuts off any Tameo like minus if they flip the Tameo. All right. What do they got here? Barrowgoyf. I have to force that, and I don't love it, but I have to, because that will quickly win the game. If they have days, I might be dead. Okay. And let's eat the Barrowgoyf. Not that that'll be relevant, but it could be. Really need a land. Well, okay. Cast the Ornithopter. I think that's better than holding it up for the frog. Flipping the Tameo. Sure. I'm going to block everything. Yep. Yep. And then I will take the Brainstorm. Guess I should probably take in the Children's Edict, but I think it's okay. Really need that land here. Can't Brainstorm into the Bowmaster. Not safely anyway. I would lose my creatures, so I think I have to hold back. An opponent has, oh geez, I think this might be the end of the game here. Yeah, I don't see a path out of this now. Opponent got this one. I could have brainstormed, like emergency brainstorm, but I think I'm just dead here. Like even if I draw a land, I don't know if land even does it. Well, actually, land, if my opponent has nothing, does do something. It lets me cast Bowmasters, which probably will just get dazed or forced. But so it goes. That's an interesting attack from my opponent. You block there just in case they have something like Kaito. Okay. So I kind of need a miracle here. I need a swamp, and then I need my opponent to have nothing. Okay, I did not get there. GG's opponent, you've got this one. All right, on the play. This hand is fine. There are some questions about how to play it. Like I can play the Tameo turn 1. I kind of like playing the Tameo turn 1. Like kind of forces the opponent to have something. I can daze to protect the Tameo. I don't mind that. I think I'll play the Tameo turn 1. So let's play Tameo, which I will probably protect with daze if they force it, or if they plow it or something. And then I'll play the Ornithopter anyway. You wonder, actually, should I play the Ornithopter? Could play it next turn. I think you play it just in case they have something like Vexing Bauble. All right. I acknowledge that like playing the Undercity Sewers might let me play the Frog on turn. Okay, so now I know what my opponent has. I think this deck is Necro. Okay, opponent's got Cabal Ritual, Necro Dominance, which I will daze. And if they have a Spirit Guide or something else, then I probably just lose. Okay, they had a Spirit Guide. So I'm going to let my opponent show you this combo. So this is, they're going to draw 19 cards and try to storm off in their end step. They know I don't have anything because I would have forced the Necro Dominance. So they've drawn 19. They're going to start exiling Spirit Guides and stuff, and they're going to try to win. And you know, if they somehow fail, they lose. But drawing 19 cards usually wins the game. So they're like casting Summoner's Pacts to get Spirit Guides. They're going to Manamorphose. They're going to get blue. They're going to cast Born Upon a Wind, which lets them play Artifact mana. And then there's Born Upon a Wind. So this lets them play artifacts, and now they can play Lotus Petals and cast Tendrils of Agony. Just got the Tendies. They have Beseech for Tendrils. That will work. Okay. Okay, so a couple things you want in this matchup. Grafdigger's Cage, like they're not an echo deck, so I don't think that's going to do anything. You do want Surgical because sometimes they're one, if you force Necro Dominance, you can try to win the game immediately. But two, you can sometimes they play Chancellor of the NX, and this can get you out from under a Chancellor. Consigned to Memory is okay. It doesn't do a lot because, I mean, it can work if they draw a bunch of cards, cast Tendrils, and you replicate it. It can also be used against the Necro Dominance to like give you one more turn. So those are kind of the things that can do. I think Children's Edict's dead, and Fatal Push is dead. Murderous Cut is also dead. And notably, casting Bowmasters doesn't, other than as a threat, it doesn't really do a lot against this deck. Like, they're going off at instant speed, so even though they're drawing 19 cards, there's a bunch of Bowmasters on the stack that it won't win. I don't think you want Hydroblast here. I guess I'll just take Harbinger. I don't think any of the rest of this is good. I think that's probably better than keeping a Murderous Cut as a 5-drop. Yeah, I think we'll go with this. So really you want some piece of permanent hate. This hand will just lose. So the question is, do I try to opponent kept 7? I don't think this hand is good enough. I think I need 2 pieces of interaction, and this has 1 on turn 2. I think I have to mulligan this. Okay, I mean this is a keep. Put 2 cards back. I think you want Force and Consign. Put back Changeling Outcast and maybe Swamp. Yeesh. Okay. We'll just play out the Underground Sea, and if my opponent like thought seizes me or something, I'll brainstorm. Okay, no action really from the opponent here. So I'm going to brainstorm in the end step, try to hit my land drop, and try to just... Oh, this is a disaster. I don't... I'm so dead. Maybe I should have kept that second land. I mean, I have Consigned to Memory, but I don't see how this works. Interesting. Opponent's playing like super patient. That Null Rod start would have been great. But I continue to have nothing. Really needed that brainstorm to hit a land. Okay, opponent's still doing nothing. And giving the Storm deck time is kind of a recipe for disaster. So I can hold up Consign here, or I can play Psychic Frog. I don't think you want to Consign. I think you hold up Consign for the Storm trigger. But I think I just have to jam the Frog. Like, if I don't present a threat, they just sit back and win. The Frog is a pretty good threat. I don't think 1 force is going to be enough. I mean, maybe I should have held up the Consign, but I don't know. I don't see how my opponent kept... Okay, Manamorphose. They're going to go for it here. Got black, which means they probably have Veil. No. Another Manamorphose. They're drawing. Are they drawing towards Veil? they use the green. Spirit Guide. Okay. Opponent is casting a Spirit Guide. That's fine. I don't care about that at all. So I think you just want to like pitch the ninjas and like get in for 3 at least. I think that's kind of my plan here. If my opponent has removal, I think that's probably okay. So I'm just going to do this and like get in with the frog. This Elvish Spirit Guide, despite the name, does not fly. So this also means my opponent can't draw as many cards. Okay. And then I think I'm just gonna, I think I just want to hold up the frog, or hold up the consigns. So I have force plus consign. I feel like that's okay. Simian Spirit Guide, sure. Opponent is not going to kill me with the Simian Spirit Guide. Now the question is, do I want to like pitch 3 cards? I think the answer is no. I think you just attack through the Simian Spirit Guide. I don't want to pitch 3 cards. They didn't block? Alright. I mean, I'm going to pitch a frog. Get in for 4. Okay. And I'm not going to play the frog. I'm going to hold up the consigns. I can always pitch 2 cards and fly next turn and have a 6/6. I mean, already my opponent's only drawing 12, which is like a lot worse. I mean, they can still win drawing 12, but I don't think I care about Ornithopter at all. So I think you just, and I don't think I have lethal, no. But I can pitch Frog, pitch Ornithopter, and fly. And then now the opponent just won't be drawing very many cards. I mean, they can only draw 6. That feels terrible for them. And the Bowmaster is pretty good here. Wild Cantor is fine. Opponent is casting Summoner's Pact. I'm going to let that resolve. Okay, opponent got an Elvish Spirit Guide. They technically could pay for it with Petal and Wild Cantor. But that won't do it. I mean, they lose the game in upkeep. Sure. Ritual seems okay. Tendrils. So I think here you just consign the Storm Trigger. 1, blue, black. So now the opponent's going to gain 2 life, but they die in upkeep. I don't see how they win here. I'm pretty sure they're dead. Because they're going to gain 2 life, but the life is irrelevant. They can't, I mean, Veil does nothing. You draw a card, sure. I should have probably countered that, actually. Yeah, because Veil does not stop that. So opponent, yeah, okay, that was weird. I should have forced the Veil, just in case they had something else. But yeah, with Summoner's Pact, like, they can't pay. Okay, so I got game 2 against Necro Storm, which was lucky. Even despite them playing a bunch of Spirit Guides, I don't think I'm bringing in Fatal Pushes or anything. Don't think I want any of this. Yeah. I don't think I need anything. I don't think I need to do anything different here. I think you want forces, you want days, and you want these 2 like permanent hate pieces. If I can get those, I'm looking good. Harbinger is probably not great. It's possible that the second Harbinger is better than something else, but I don't think it's that good. All right, let's go, and hope that we can get there. I don't know why my opponent kept that hand. Like, I guess they just didn't have a Necro. They were hoping to get there. Okay. So opponent has kept 7 again. So this is a risky hand, essentially. All I have is Daze and Damping Sphere. But I'm going to keep it and hope that I get a turn. So opponent has played a Chancellor. Chancellor's fine. I mean, if they have 7 with Chancellor, like, I cannot beat that. Okay. There's Petal. They played it. I guess this is always tapped. All right. Okay, so I can throw the Changeling Outcast into the Chancellor. I gotta throw something into the Chancellor is kind of the real answer. And I think it is probably the Changeling Outcast. And I want to do this off of Underground Sea. So we'll just cast the Changeling Outcast into the Chancellor. I do not pay, but now the Chancellor trigger is cleared. And if I survive 1 more turn, which is dicey, I can play the Damping Sphere, which is amazing. But if I daze, I can't play the Damping Sphere, which is sad. All right. Oh, if opponent gives me another turn, I don't know if they can beat Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere is tough to beat for them. I mean, they could have permanent removal. I didn't show them anything that really gets through that, but I don't think they can beat Damping Sphere. Like, Damping Sphere is super bad for them. Like, you cannot storm off through Damping Sphere. Okay. So I cannot actually play a spell here. But I don't know. Okay, yeah. I was pretty sure the opponent can't beat Damping Sphere. I don't know why this hand again was a keep. You know, like, Necrostorm is a deck that has to play super fast, and this hand just wasn't. Anyway, GG's opponent. All right, it's actually a couple days later than the last match. All right, so I can gamble here. I don't have a cantrip. I have 1 land. I can't cast any spells other than Nile Spellbomb. I need to draw a land or a cantrip in my first 2 draws. I think it's just too risky. If I had a force, maybe I would keep this, but I think I'm going to mulligan it. Opponent's kept 7. This is worse. I feel like I mulliganed a lot. Maybe the ponders hurt. Yuck! I hate this hand, but I'm going to keep it. I think I will put this back, and I'll just fetch Undercity Sewers if I need to. I'll put back one of the polluted deltas. So I'll fetch, I think, the Undercity Sewers with this, and then Swamp with this. I hate this. Yeah, probably the first hand's better than this one. Okay, if my opponent's on red, so they could have like a Blood Moon here. I'm gonna actually fetch Swamp and get the Changeling Outcast going. That gives me my colors in case they do a Blood Moon. So I'm gonna do that. I want to be okay. Fable. I don't think I can throw away my Kaito and force for Fable. It's bad, but I don't think I can. It hurts. Yeah, mulligan to 5 hurts. Okay, a second Changeling Outcast isn't bad. I think this is fetching the Undercity Sewers in order to smooth my draw. And then I'll probably cast the Changeling Outcast. And hopefully getting Kaito going next turn gives me something. Get something going. I can play the Changeling Outcast. Obviously, my opponent's going to get a treasure, and then maybe they could cast a Fury. That would be pretty devastating if they did that. All right, let's play the Changeling Outcast and pass. I'd probably have to force a Fury. But yeah, I'm not in great shape here. Okay, opponent has gotten rid of, I mean, Shatterskull Smashing, I feel would be pretty strong here against me. So the fact that they're getting rid of that just feels terrible. Like that means their hand is incredibly strong. Okay, 5 mana, 6 mana. Fury. Okay, well, I said I had to force it. I can't lose both Changing Outcasts. It hurts. Tamiyo's something. Oh, I meant to fetch the... I meant to smooth my draw, although I'd probably keep the Tamiyo. That was definitely a mistake to not fetch the Undercity Sewers. I'm going to play the Tamiyo. Opponent knows I'm on empty, and we'll see. Yeah, I'm definitely not in great shape. This is looking like the... I'll probably... So I have kind of a difficult situation here. I can block, and if my opponent has another Fury, like I lose my board. I think you just don't block. I think I'll just take the damage. Opponent knows I'm on empty. Is this another Fury? Sure is. Yeah, this game's looking pretty bad. Okay, so they leave a Changeling Outcast. And then they have Reflection plus Fury, which I think is probably just game ending here. Okay, opponent's losing a land. So I will fetch the Undercity Sewers here. But yeah, I'm in terrible shape here. This is probably... It might be over. This does not help here at all. And yeah, this game's over. We will go to the next one. So that, I think I lost that in the mulligan. Not too much to say there. Like, I don't... Maybe I should have kept that first hand, but I don't think I did anything too bad there. Okay, so the blue blast and the hydroblast are great. Um, Children's Edict, I don't mind, but I don't think it's super critical. Other than that, Null Rod is a consideration, but it's not super good. This didn't look like Painter. This looked like Red Prison. And Null Rod is okay, but not stellar. You definitely do not need the Nile spell bombs, although the opponent's probably on Pyroglyphs, so they're not totally dead, but they're not very good. All right. I'll probably at least trim some number of forces because the opponent is probably playing Vexing Bauble. So you can just change forces into those. If they're on the ring, consigned to memory is a consideration. It kind of can counter Pyroglyph's triggered ability, it can counter Fury's triggered ability. So it is a consideration. Cool. You kind of want Children's Edict. Orcish Bowmasters is not great. It does kind of it does work against the ring, and it has some text against Fable, so I'll probably keep it. Brazen Borrower's good against something like a Chalice, but otherwise not stellar. Let's see here. I think I might trim a Nile Spellbomb, maybe put in like a consigned memory, and then maybe I'll trim one other thing and put in like a Children's Edict. Notably, Fatal Push can answer Pyroglyph, but cannot answer Fury. So something like Children's Edict. I only have kind of Children's Edict and Murderous Cut for those. Yeah. Sink into Stupor actually isn't very good in this matchup because since it's 2 blue to bounce, it's very hard to bounce something like a Blood Moon or something like that. So maybe I'll take that out for a consigned to memory, and we'll go with this. Yeah, I think this is okay. All right, we'll see if we can do better. This is fine. I like this. This gives me a turn 2 Eureka or a turn 2 Frog, both of which are good. And it has both of my lands. So, like, I can fetch the Swamp here to play the Changeling Outcast, and then the opponent basically cannot cut me off of colors very easily. I will probably cast Frog over Eureka, depending on what my opponent has done. Vexing Bauble, I don't have anything that kind of does anything with that right here. Opponents cast Dread, that's fine. Or Dead, rather. So they've taken out my Changeling Outcast. I'm okay with that. You can notice kind of the Vexing Bauble. Like, this is a reason why Ornithopter just isn't as good anymore as a Ninja enabler. Because, now a couple cards in my deck are totally dead draws. Although I can pitch them to Psychic Frog. I'm actually going to play out the Underground Sea here to try to tempt my opponent into playing a Blood Moon effect. Notably, the Vexing Bauble does shut off opposing Furies until my opponent gets to 5 mana. But opponent basically knows that whatever they cast here resolves, so that's trouble. But I'm kind of trying to tempt my opponent into a Blood Moon effect here, thinking they'll shut me off blue when I know that they will not shut me off blue. So that's kind of a backup plan here. Ninjutsuing in Eureka here doesn't, like, I think I'd rather just connect with the Frog. Yeah. Okay, nothing I can do to that. An opponent has missed a land drop. Okay. That's interesting. I'm just going to jam Eureka, and we'll see what the opponent can do to that. I mean, they're probably packing a mountain of red blasts, so Eureka isn't I mean, it's still just a 3 toughness creature. Okay, opponent's got something. Broadside, okay. They can fling the Vexing Bauble at me, at Yuriko, which is something. I mean, I cannot block. They kind of have to fling the Vexing Bauble at Yuriko? Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm playing another Yuriko. It's kind of sad here. But at least I have Daze, actually. Daze is kind of interesting here. The Nile Spellbomb is a redraw. I don't really want to... I don't think I'm going to cast it here. I'll probably Surveil, but I'm going to cast another Yuriko. I'm going to hold back the Nile Spellbomb for a couple reasons. One, because there's no way I'm cracking it. I need the redraw. And two, it's possible my opponent has... So, Daze pays off here. Oh, they had Spirit Guide. All right. That hurts. Okay, well, can't block. They can fling a broadside at Yuriko, but otherwise, I'm getting the redraw. Okay. All right, well, let's get the Undercity Sewers going again. Ingenious Infiltrator is not really where I want to be here. I mean, it's not nothing, but I feel it's not great here. I don't hate Brazen Borrower. That's pretty good, I feel. Let's connect with Yuriko. Okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. But we're definitely playing the Underground Sea. I think I'm not gonna play the Brazen Borrower. Do I want to play the Brazen Borrower? I don't think so. So I have a question here. I can play the Frog, which can't block. So my opponent has free reign to take me to 8 plus flinging, which is bad. I think I'm going to just play the Frog and I'm going to hold up the Borrower. And this lets me kind of bounce a broadside in the beginning of combat, which can slow them down quite a bit. Vexing Bauble doesn't do anything here for me. Okay, so I'm going to Petty Theft one of the broadsides. And they have a Red Blast. They have a Red Blast. Okay. I cannot block. So they can, again, fling the Vexing Bauble at either one. They have a choice. They can kill either one. Okay, and they are flinging it at my face. Okay. Certainly a choice. Oh, and then they just had lethal. All right, well, I feel like I, again, didn't do anything particularly wrong there, but just kind of got. Yeah, that's a shame. All right, well, we'll see if we can salvage this league and get a 3-2. All right, on the draw here. This hand's good. I like this. This has plenty of options in terms of Tameo, Brainstorm, Fatal Push, Orcish Bowmasters. This is a keep. All right. I'll probably just fetch basics. Our opponent has a Tameo. I will actually consider Fatal Pushing the Tameo. Although my opponent could have a Frog, which kind of makes things sad. Hmm. I might just play the Tameo, because I think Fatal Pushing the Frog is more important like if they have a follow-up frog, I think fatal pushing the frog is more important than fatal pushing the Tameo. So I'm gonna actually open with my own Tameo. And I kind of have Bowmaster, which solves some of the problems with Tameo that my opponent could have. Opponent's gonna attack. I'm actually gonna block here. Pretty unlikely, but my opponent could have a ninjutsu creature. There are a couple ones that can go for one, but not a lot. All right, opponent is pondering. Opponent has a flooded strand, so they're not casting frog here. They could ponder again and flip the Tameo. Certainly an option. They're thought seizing me, so they have kind of their choice, but I have Fatal Push for Tameo and Brainstorm to flip my Tameo, which are all good. They've taken Bowmasters. Okay. Okay, I like this a lot. So if I flip my Tameo here, I don't have a ninjutsu creature to put in, which is kind of sad. So I probably am going to Fatal Push first and then Brainstorm second. I think that'll be my plan. The fact that my opponent Thoughtseize here makes me kind of think, this is the Reanimator version, the blue-black Reanimator, as opposed to blue-black Tempo. So I can't put in Kaito, I need one more mana. I'm going to Fatal Push their Tameo, and then I'm going to Brainstorm after that. And if my opponent dazes this, I'm actually kind of okay. Like, I feel that's fine. Okay. Like these cards, I probably want to draw Brazen Borrower or Kaito. Don't think I need the Tameo. I'm going to bury that one. And then I think I'm going to put Kaito on top to hide that. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to flip Tameo, tick up. And then now kind of my opponent's in a difficult spot. Like if they play a Psychic Frog, they know I can get back the Fatal Push and Fatal Push it. The thing that I'm fearing here is Entomb Reanimate, basically. Brainstorm's fine. So like I don't really fear a Psychic Frog here. Yeah. And now with Psychic Frog and Brazen Borrower, that gives me other ways to turn on the Kaito, which I think is good. So I think I'm gonna cast the Frog, hold up the Brainstorm, and I'm gonna tick up the Tameo after casting the Frog, just in case my opponent does something like I can make a decision. They're not gonna kill Tameo here, I think. And if they do, like ticking up doesn't matter. Okay, so I will tick up, and then I'm gonna kind of let my opponent do their thing. So the top of my deck is Tameo. I kind of don't want to draw her, so I'll probably fetch an Undercity Sewers here. And if my opponent Fatal Pushes my Frog, like I think that's fine. They're drawing a card. And I have an Emergency Brainstorm if they have Entomb Reanimate, which I definitely do not want to see. That's kind of the only thing I'm really afraid of. I mean, I can still lose this game, but Entomb Reanimate is my biggest fear. Doomsday. That was unexpected. Do I want to Emergency Brainstorm here? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I am going to cast this Brainstorm end of turn because I want to probably ninjutsu the Kaito next turn. Although my opponent's going to 7, so I have real damage here from just pumping the Psychic Frog. I think I will Brainstorm just in case. Although I kind of expect, I probably don't, unless I draw like Force and days, I probably don't want to play into it. But I'm going to fetch, and I'll cast a Brainstorm. Kind of wasn't expecting, but Doomsday, but that's certainly an option. Okay. Sink into Stupor is kind of an interesting card because um, it can bounce even an uncounterable uh, uh, Thassa's Oracle. So I think this is kind of interesting. I'm going to put Brazen Borrower, probably Shieldred's Edict actually, because my opponent's not casting a creature here. Shieldred's Edict, and then Sink into Stupor on top of the deck. And then my plan is probably to just pump Frog a lot and hold up Sink into Stupor. I think that's probably better than playing Kaito even. Yep. Okay. Let's do that. So I'm going to let this resolve and hope my opponent doesn't have it. Conceivably, they could win here with some like Brainstorm LED pile. They've played a land this turn. So it's possible, but this looks like a pass the turn line. They still have 4 cards in hand, so that's a lot to play into force. They're going to be at 7. Yeah. Tamio could get a Brainstorm back. I don't know if that's... I think I'd rather just tick up, because if my opponent tries to go for a 2-turn line, like, they're going to... I'm going to draw half my deck and win the game. Or, have a pile of counter spells. So I think that that's not the line. I think the line is probably just pump Psychic Frog and hold up Sink into Stupor, which is the top of my deck. Again, Sink into Stupor can stop even an uncounterable Thassa's Oracle. But of course, if they have Force, like, nothing I can do to that. Another possibility is to Tamio back Brainstorm and have options. Notably, you can't use Tamio to get back something like Bowmasters. Bowmasters is really good against Doomsday. So Doomsday has kind of played a couple different piles, and I guess we'll take a screenshot of this in a sec, but or a couple different options. But like Doomsday now, I feel like they run their own Psychic Frogs and Tamios, so they stretch you both in removal and obviously they have the Doomsday line to just win the game. So a lot of times you used to side out your removal against Doomsday, but now they're probably running Frogs, they're probably running Tamios, and they might even have something like Barrow Goyf in the sideboard. So here, yeah, we see 3 Psychic Frogs. Could have another one in the hand. Okay, Street Wraith. They're going for something here right away. LED. So they did think about an LED line. Okay. Okay, they put a Psychic Frog. And they're casting Thassa's Oracle. Okay, yep. With 2 cards in the deck, maybe I should have held up that land instead of brainstorming to threaten something like Fatal Push. But yeah, so my opponent had days, force, days, force, force, force. So they were out of forces too. Could have put a force into the pile, of course. So maybe that was a mistake to fetch instead of to fetch there and brainstorm. Maybe because that kind of incentivized them to go for a no past the turn line. Well, yeah, tough one. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I think the consigned memories are pretty good. And I don't hate these. I don't really like, I do like Surgical, because Surgical can kind of mess with their pile. I don't think you need Null Rod. Yeah, they're running like a couple, like they just have the 1 LED and typically like 2 Lotus Petals. I should have taken a screenshot, but I didn't. All right. And what's bad? Nile Spellbomb does nothing here, probably. I mean, it conceivably can shrink a Barrow Goyf or like make it harder for a frog to jump, but I don't think Nile Spellbomb is what we really want here. I think the rest of this is all pretty good, actually. Definitely want consigns, at least 2. I may not run all 3. And I think you want to run all the forces and days. They really stretch you in a couple different ways with this deck. I think you absolutely want the surgical. And then whether I want more removal is definitely a question. I probably want Long Goodbye over Shieldred's Edict. That's for sure. But whether I want to keep the Shieldred's Edict, because I don't think there's anything, unless they bring in Shieldred, true Shieldred, there's nothing that Shieldred's Edict hits that Long Goodbye doesn't hit, even if they bring in Barrowgoyf. Brazen Borrower, I think I want that. I could cut the Brazen for a surgical. Maybe you want to do that? Sure, we'll do that. I think I'm going to leave the Shieldred's Edicts in the sideboard. We'll go with this. Yeah, hand's good. Has Force, has Days, puts a turn 2 Yuriko. Like, I think this is a good hand. This is kind of a classic old school Ninjas hand. And we'll see how this matches up against Doomsday. So let's open with Island Ornithopter. And we'll see what the opponent has. If the opponent tries to use removal on Ornithopter, I might try to protect it. Opponent is almost certainly running some amount of removal. There's Flooded Strand. Underground Sea. Thoughtseize. So I'm going to brainstorm here and hide the Yuriko. No real need to do that. Maybe I'll try to tempt them to take the Yuriko. So I think I want Ingenious Infiltrator and Yuriko on top. And tempt my opponent to take Yuriko. And then this also flips a 4 with the Ingenious Infiltrator. So let's do this. And I have a pitch card in Yuriko for Force of Will. I'm kind of trying to tempt my opponent to take Yuriko. They may not fall for it. I mean, they know I brainstormed, so. Taking Frog or Days, I mean, really any card here is defensible for them. I'd love for them to take Yuriko. Opponent goes to 17 here, and then, if I hit with Yuriko, they'll take 5, 1 from Yuriko and 4 from Ingenious Infiltrator. Okay, opponent took what I wanted them to take. They have a Petal. That was unexpected. I mean, I guess I know that they're running it, but put in Yuriko. It connects. Opponent goes to 12. Cast Ornithopter. And we're now threatening Ingenious Infiltrator to draw 4. So, I think this is pretty good shape. Pitch card is probably Psychic Frog to Force of Will right now. Kind of depends on what I'm countering a little bit. Like if I can't really, I don't want them to resolve their own Psychic Frog because that kind of blocks what I'm doing a little bit. Opponent knows pretty much my whole hand, I think. Yeah, they know my whole hand. So they have perfect information. Let's see what they choose to do. But Doomsday here is very risky. I mean, like I can just let Doomsday resolve and try to kill them. Okay, so I think I do want to force Psychic Frog here And I'll probably pitch my own Psychic Frog. I think that's okay. Because they'll take a lot of damage if this doesn't resolve. So I think I'm going to force this, pitch my own frog, and we'll see what my opponent's got here. Okay, they let it go. Yeah, okay. Opponent scoops it up. This is just a classic Ninjas gotcha hand, like if you get the Ninjas going, if I draw 4 here, like it's going to be very hard for my opponent to come back from that. All right. See if we can win a match on the draw. Any changes? Days is a little worse on the draw, but I think you still want it. These are kind of the cards I'd consider here. The rest of these I think are not a consideration. Let's see, I have 5 removal spells, and I've cut the Brazen Borrower. I don't think I'll bring in the Shieldred's Edicts, but I might bring in I think the Brazen Borrower is a possibility. I don't think I'm going to bring in the Shieldred's Edicts. I think you still want all of this. Could see myself cutting the Changeling Outcast, but I mean, cutting a Ninja Enabler is kind of not really something I want to do. Could cut a Psychic Frog, but again, same kind of thing. Psychic Frog pumps really fast. It's good. Like it can threaten, it's a turn 2 threat that can threaten a lot of damage on turn 3. Like you can just pitch your whole hand if they go for a past the turn Doomsday line, and then, Psychic Frog might even be lethal. Could cut a Tamiyo. I kind of like Tamiyo in this matchup. I'd probably cut Changeling Outcast before Tamiyo. I think you want all the forces in Days. Don't really want to cut any Ninjas. I think you want the sink into Stupor. I'm going to cut a Changeling Outcast for a Brazen Borrower. We're going to see how that goes. Another problematic hand here. Opponent has mulliganed to 6. I think I am going to also mulligan. This hand's okay. Again, you have a classic Ninja's hand. I'm going to keep this. And I think this time I'm going to bottom. I'm definitely bottoming a land. The question is which land. I think you kind of want to get the Surveil going on turn 1, so it's probably one of the basics. I think it'll be the Swamp. Okay. So we'll see what my opponent does. Opponent goes for a Surveil on turn 1. Sounds fine. Puts it on the top. Okay. Got the old mulligan bug there. Okay, so we'll play this, and unless I have to Daze here, kind of my plan is to, unless I have to Daze, my plan is to Surveil. In fact, even if I Surveil, I might. Well, now Daze is dead. Okay, opponent's brainstorming, that's fine. I could force pitch Daze. Opponent hasn't made a land drop. Because getting the Ingenious Infiltrator going would be very good. Like if that connects, I feel way better about this game. Opponent made their land drop. No other effects. All right, let's get the Undercity Sewers and Surveil. Don't want that. Force is fine. I like that. So let's attack with Ornithopter and see if we can connect. Opponent could have something like, Shieldred's Edict. Nope. So Ingenious Infiltrator connects. Now have double force here. I'll cast the Ornithopter and we'll go from here. See what my opponent can do. Not saying my position's perfect, but it's okay. Ritual, I'll let that go. Cavern. Dragon. What is going on? Is this like a big Murktide or something? Well, I'm not countering it. It is a big Murktide or something. Well, I cannot counter that, so sure, you have a 5/5. It's going to be tough for the opponent to attack here, actually, because of Ingenious Infiltrator. So I actually think that's probably okay. I'm going to brainstorm here and kind of see, like, can I get a... I mean, I guess I didn't bring in the Shieldred's Edict, so I just have the Borrower, which is pretty good, and Murderous Cut. Um, but yeah, let's open with Brainstorm, see what we can get going. Nothing great here. Nothing too great. Definitely don't need Ornithopter, and I can probably put Eureka on top. I think my opponent can't attack here too effectively. So I think I'll probably just cast the Frog and see what happens. I'll put Eureka on top. If my opponent tries to go for anything, if my opponent attacks with the Murktide, like they're going to be in big trouble. So let's do this. And I'm holding up Double Force plus day. Well, Double Force or Force and Daze. And if my opponent dazes this, I'm probably okay with it. They straight up force. Force pitching Oracle, even. I think Daze is probably not a very good card here. But if I get the Frog going, like, if I pitch 2 cards, the Frog, I can't make the Frog huge. I think I still want the Frog more than Murktide, or more than, I think I want the Frog more than these 2 cards, because without it, I don't think it's very good. So I'm gonna actually force the Frog, or I'm gonna force the Force and keep the Frog. All right, and then I'm gonna just pass here. I'm not attacking. I have another Brainstorm, which is pretty good. If my opponent attacks, I mean, I can't imagine they will. Okay, so I draw Eureka. So I'm going to Brainstorm again, just hoping to hit, and then I can make a decision, like, do I attack with the Frog, as an example. So let's Brainstorm, and I might have to force a Bowmaster if they have one. There's the Murderous Cut, love it. Okay, so I think I want the Eureka here, even though I'm only gonna so I'm gonna Murderous Cut, and if I guess my opponent can't have Force here, but they could have something like Force of Negation. It's really important that this Murderous Cut resolves, is kind of the answer. So I think I'm gonna keep the Eureka in my hand, even though I can't ninjutsu her. I'll put the Fatal Push on top, and then we're just gonna Murderous Cut here, and I'll keep a Brainstorm in the deck, or in the graveyard. So there's the Murderous Cut. Opponent, we'll see what they got. I have Force. Yeah, they concede. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna have my total engine online at that point, just to flip back to the game here. At this point, I have my complete engine online. You know, I'm gonna draw 2 cards this turn, potentially 5 cards the following turn, and I have a Fatal Push in case they play a blocker. I mean, they're dead at this point. So, okay. So we played blue-black tempo, Necro Storm, red, like the mono red deck, and then like the DDFT Doomsday Frog Tameo, Frog Tameo Doomsday deck. So lots of blue black in there. Necro Storm, I would say, like, I think I got a little lucky there. I'm going to flip back over to this to look at the deck. Um, the list looks pretty good. We have, one of the things that's kind of a consideration with ninjas is, you saw in the red prison matchup, which I think I got a little unlucky there. I don't think that matchup is actually that bad, but we have a lot of cards hit by Vexing Bauble. The Ornithopters, Daze, Force. Sometimes you can get around them, like eventually you can hardcast Force. Hardcasting Daze is like not impossible. Ornithopter becomes a totally dead card that you pitch to Psychic Frog. But yeah, I mean, Vexing Bauble kind of did, like Ornithopter was kind of collateral damage from Vexing Bauble, and if the opponent's on the play or has a turn one Vexing Bauble, you're just, these are just dead cards. So it's kind of tough to run a card like that as a 4 of nowadays. Although Ornithopter is still kind of bar none the best enabler that this deck has. It's better than Changeling Outcast, and Tameo is very good. I think I only showcased Kaito a little bit. I think in one of the UB matchups, like the tempo or reanimator matchups, I think it was just a tempo, just blue black tempo. We saw kind of Kaito end a game there, and I think Kaito just makes this very strong. You could, in that last game against Doomsday, if I had a Kaito, even if you can hard cast a Kaito and tap down that the Murktide, or even like throw a creature away to get the Kaito in, tap down the Murktide, and suddenly you've opened the lanes for attacking. You can just kind of witness the power of Kaito. This card's just incredible. But we also saw like a couple just classic ninjas play an Ornithopter on one, get a Eureka or an Ingenious Infiltrator on two, backed up by Daze or Force, and that sometimes is just enough to win the game. We also, I think, saw like Psychic Frog in many respects is like a ninja that requires no setup. You just cast it on turn two. Yeah, it's a little bit slower, but it doesn't require any setup, doesn't require any of this Ornithopter nonsense. You just play a frog and draw some cards, win the game. But again, kind of this deck now has a couple options in terms of playing. Like you can kind of play the fast. We saw like a couple games where we did like Ornithopter or Tameo into Eureka or Ingenious Infiltrator, but it can also kind of play the slow game, sit there with a Tameo, tick it up. If the opponent plays a creature, you can get back a Fatal Push and Fatal Push it. If the opponent doesn't, you just keep ticking up Tameo and threaten to win the game. So the deck has a much stronger like mid-rangey plan. The Nile Spellbombs, I think were okay, but not really. Like, I guess I didn't really face the best deck in the format exactly. The blue black, Reanimator featuring like both the Entomb package and the Metamorphosis Fanatic package. So like, this didn't really shine. And arguably these could be something else. Maybe this could be like if Frog ever does get the ban or that deck gets a nerf or, whatever happens. I don't know if that's going to happen. You could totally see maybe those becoming something like another Changeling Outcast or another removal spell, and you'd have these slots open up too. I think these would become more ninjas, Yuriko and Ingenious Infiltrator, or even maybe a third Kaito. If you want to play a little bit more mid-rangey, you could also think of something like Baleful Strix. Although it's possible that a lot of why Baleful Strix is, seeing an uptick in play right now is because it matches up well against Psychic Frog. So it's kind of like I feel like the numbers in this deck in terms of how many Eurikos, how many Ingenious Infiltrators, these numbers are still kind of up in the air, and I think only time will tell. And then if there's a format shakeup, time will not tell. It's going to need some changes again. So but overall, I was pretty happy with this deck list. I felt it performed pretty well. We saw I feel like I got a little bit unlucky with mulligans, but you also witnessed, I'm a 19 land deck, admittedly 20 with this land, and I still had to mulligan a lot, even with 4 brainstorms. Missing the ponders perhaps was painful. So, I don't know, maybe the deck goes to 2 ponders. I think there's definitely question marks, and you can build this deck a couple different ways. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I definitely made a couple misplays, but I love playing this deck. It was a blast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And have a good rest of your day, and enjoy some Legacy out there.